I know you guys don't go on TikTok as much as I do, but like once every 2 weeks, I log on and like 10 people have tagged me in a video of Dan from like what looks like 10 years ago. And it's an interview with Chael Sonnen, and it like keeps going viral. And so people keep tagging me in it. And I think it keeps getting like re-uploaded because it keeps going viral. And all the comments are people who don't know who Dan is. And they're like, yes, like this reporter got him. And it's really weird. And I don't know if you guys even know what I'm talking about, but Dan basically keeps going viral on TikTok.
I don't know the
congratulations.
I don't know the specifics of what you're talking about. I do know that over the years, that's as close as I will ever be in my pathetic world to whatever it is Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali had in terms of banter. That guy was always performing. He was better at the art of doing the combative interview, the wrestling interview, than I was.
What's viral? Like, what is that?
That room,
Well,
that
like,
room you guys are in.
it means a lot of
viral.
people have watched it, Stu. Yeah, viral also, all of the air right now in the studio. So like, and they're all on different accounts. Like one is a UFC or UCF account. They're all. It's weird. I don't know. Did I say UCF?
What's
or UFC?
in the
I'm
clip?
looking
That's
at
University
right
of Central Florida.
Yeah, the
That's a
Knights.
fine. I think you meant
Jessica,
UFC.
you got here a little late today. People might have missed your voice earlier. We don't want to think them to think that you were excluded. You got here late because you were
I had to
handling
get
things. You're a little
emergency dental work done, but I'm fine. Thanks for
okay.
asking.
We're
How are
happy
the
that
chompers?
you're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're good. They're good.
Little root canal or what
I
happened?
have some like deep grooves in the back of my
Black?
teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eh.
So, but I'm fine. I have to go back tomorrow, but I'm fine.
What is the back and forth though? People are saying I won. I didn't
Okay,
feel
so
like
there's-
I didn't feel like I ever won whenever I was interviewed. I was the straight man with Chael Sonnen.
Yeah, there's one where he said something and you were like calling him out for saying it, and then he's like, I never said that. And then they play the clip where he said it right after, and everyone's like, oh, that reporter came with the receipts, and all these people are like saying he dunked on him and
I
like
had so
owned
many
him.
Sonnen receipts.
It's like mic drop, like he's got it, like that guy nailed it.
Yes.
But none of them know who you are, Dan. So
That's
they're all
great.
just like,
Huh?
that guy did it. Like it's kind of funny. And then there's another one about like Brazilians or something, and
yeah, that was
don't know it.
borderline, or if not outright racist.
So how
some
does
of the
it
things
feel,
he said
Dan,
about
being
Brazil.
viral? How does it feel being viral?
Which kind of viral? Because this room is steamy. There's been sickness all around. And I should say this as well. When Nick Wright said that he heard Cuban say something, the word Cuban triggered for me, Lewis, who's in this room with us, and wondering why he was shirtless when we were talking to Nick Wright, that at some point, Lewis simply took his shirt off and I couldn't believe what it was happening in the other room, where you guys were both laughing and curious because it was so swampy and unpleasant in there that Lewis, who's gotten way too comfortable around here, just said, bleep it, I'm taking my shirt off.
Normally that would make me uncomfortable, but today I get
Populate
it.
me in.
Totally
It is
understand.
steamy in here.
Yep.
Steamy.
A un calor de madre.
But why did you
Cody,
decide to get shirtless? Everybody was
He's
that
still
kind of
shirtless,
swampy
yeah.
hot, and
The rest of us just went pantless. He decided to
Yeah.
get shirtless.
he decided to
Interesting.
take the shirt
I'm not
off.
coming back.
It's a $100 million company. It's hot as hell.
Yeah, it's a good question.
What the hell are we doing?
You
Turn
guys
some
are,
air
you guys
on
are
it.
usually complaining about how cold it is in there.
Well, now it's hot.
Okay.
100 million?
It is deeply unpleasant everywhere around here. Is that all you have on the viral TikTok sensation? That can we get any more popular, or is it only just because when you got here, you said you were going to make us a sensation on TikTok. You're the only one with the tools to make us a sensation on TikTok. I don't even know how to
We're
get
not
on
going to turn this
TikTok.
into a video department thing. Like, what's Jess been doing? Why don't we have the Ricky Weed video yet? Like, we're not doing that today. But Dan, I think there's some real potential here for us to do some things, because your face is already plastered all over TikTok and you're not even trying. And there's got to be a way for Metal Arc to cash in on this. Like, there's got to be older
wait.
things. Like, if we can post the archives, which I don't know if we can, post some Manfred things, some other things that maybe can make us go viral. And I think since you already have brand awareness on TikTok, whether you like it or not. I think we can do something with this.
So he's not on TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
No.
Okay, so Jess, what you're saying, what you're maintaining is if Dan signed up for TikTok, we could do that for him, right? Well, you can, or someone can, right? Someone young.
I see the angle here. Stugotz is going to try and sneak in here through the side door.
80-20 my way?
I figured that you might want a Chael Sonnen TikTok channel. I don't even know. I'm not really understanding what's happening here. You're going to have
It's
to
like
explain
pulling
it.
teeth.
If you're going to have to explain it to me like I'm a 19-year-old.
Dan, what's happening is that like someone is editing videos of you having a back and forth with Chael Sonnen and then posting it on popular UFC TikTok channels, and then it's becoming popular and viral and getting a ton of engagement. So then other UFC channels are ripping it off and republishing different variations of it, and it keeps getting more and more popular and showing up on people's algorithms. So then since I'm the only person on TikTok, they all tag me in it, and I've now watched these clips like 600 times.
This feels like a dream scenario for Dan. He doesn't do any work and he's viral every day.
That's my scenario. No.
It sounds
Dan
like
likes to work.
Sounds like Lewis and Tony are going to be doing all the work for this to happen. Or Juju, yeah.
What could
ideal person?
What could possibly go wrong in the hands of shirtless Lewis, shirtless, swampy Lewis back there? Billy, I saw you smiling from behind that mask. Was there something? Was there something that happened in this that you found particularly funny? Before I go to Tom and Amin for predictions tonight, because
really?
I know it's a big one.
Hold
It's
on
so
a second.
big.
We need to
It
get
is
to
so
predictions.
big.
We need to get to predictions.
because Tom has said
Yeah.
Boston is better. Tom believes in Horford and Williams changing everything. I don't know how healthy Williams is. I don't know. Do we know how healthy Williams is? And Amin has said since before the series, and I don't think he's going to change it, that that Miami is the better team. Stephen A. Smith, who is working way too much, who is being dragged into the mud. You cannot keep talking everywhere and not get tired and make mistakes. He pointed out that in the last game, the starters for Miami were pathetic. The 5 of them scored 18 points, and he said that was an average of 6 points per game.
Pretty good. Look it up.
He said it was pathetic. The average was wrong. John Anderson corrected him, and then they arrived at like 5.5. That was also wrong. Jesus. But you can be wrong a lot of different ways if you start changing your picks. I mean, are you going to stubbornly stay entrenched, or was your confidence shaken by the weirdness that was the last result?
Dan, everything is going according to plan. You see me wearing the culture shirt. If I had any doubt in my mind, it was extinguished yesterday afternoon when I received a text say, "Hey, you might like this," and I read it, and it was the Dan Le Batard column in the Miami Herald. I didn't even know Dan wrote anymore, but he wrote. He's a writer. He's a writer.
Welcome back.
Right now on First Take, the question is better chance at multiple titles, Warriors or Celtics?
So good.
They've
Disrespect.
ended both series and have one of them winning and now going back to winning multiple titles.
Stephen A's picture behind him looks like it was Miami in 1980.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out. What year do you think Stephen A's background on First Take was taken? Because I maintain that I think a lot of those buildings have been replaced by high-rises. I don't think those buildings are still that same buildings.
I would submit to you that picture was accurate when Don Johnson had the #1 song in the country.
Oh, the heat is on.
The heat is on.
I mean, did you see that the injury report has left off Jimmy Butler is no longer in the injury report? His knee appears to be fine. I don't know. Do you believe those injury reports?
I think the injury reports, Tom, should not be trusted. And if you listen to Basketball Illuminati, today's episode, we got into that a little bit, as well as some other thievery, speaking of Nick Wright earlier, thievery that the NBA has committed. It's Basketball Illuminati, Basketball Illuminati, Basketball Illuminati. Say it 3 times, keep your third eye open, wherever you get podcasts.
How is it again that we have gotten this late into another Wednesday, and you guys are explaining to me that for the first time that Mad Dog is on First Take, and you didn't even mention Mad Dog. You were talking about Stephen A. in the background behind him. How is it that every Wednesday?
Today wasn't the day. Yeah, we kept an eye out.
Yeah.
But today wasn't the day.
Yeah.
For Stephen.
Serious
and Mad
doggy.
Dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, because we have to have a temperament change, and we're not allowed to make fun of Chris Mad Dog Russo at all times?
Only when he's talking Hondo.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking.
We're just saying
yeah.
today was not the day to throw it to.
Not
like,
today.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Not today.
Serious show for us. Serious show for them. You know.
They're not
SiriusXM.
doing. Wait a minute. They got Chris Mad Dog Russo to talk serious talk
At the
today,
start of the
and they're
show, they did.
spending.
Yeah.
Okay,
Started
but
the show with it,
They're not
yeah.
going to spend the whole show doing that. There's just simply no way that that's what they're going to do.
There's
for
a
an
serious
hour.
vibe to the show, is
Yeah.
what they're trying. You know, the normal Mad
Tact,
Dog
Dan,
stuff,
yeah,
Stephen A.
tact.
stuff,
It's a
yelling
good
at each other.
editorial
They're not
decision
going
from
at
the
it,
group,
right?
Dan. I
Yeah.
think you
Showing
should
some
pat
tact.
them
They're not
on the
debating
back.
as much, is what we're
Yeah.
saying.
Okay, you
They're
think
getting
that-
along.
You guys are of the belief that's going to last till the end of the show.
Till next Wednesday.
He's Sane Dog today.
There's no way that he's going to be Sane Dog for the rest of the day. There's no possible. He's going to be a mad dog. He's not going to be a decent dog. He's not going to be a tepid dog. He's not going to be a not mad dog.
I like Sane Dog. That was funny.
Sane Dog.
He's Sane Dog today.
Tom has bad jokes.
Hey, wouldn't it have been happy,
Hey, got 2 kids.
been happy dog?
Billy, we've got a Latin pioneer over here. The guy basically invented blogging, as far as I could tell. He's a local guy. And why are you smiling like that, Billy? Just because he reminds you of something from high school? You know his entire story, right?
We went to the same high school, actually. Yeah. I mean, I will say this, and this is no offense to Perez. It's not like when they're telling us about like the Manny Diaz's and all like the politicians and stuff that went to our high school. For whatever reason, they don't include Perez Hilton
They're
on
not
the list.
proud. They're not proud of
I
a
don't
Miami
know.
kid made good, made bad, made good because he does bad, made good because he shows people's bad. They're not proud of Perez Hilton.
I can't speak for everyone. I wouldn't say that they're not proud. I would just say like it's like Perez Hilton, Louis Aguirre, and Fidel Castro is like up there and like notable alumni from our high school. Yeah,
All right, so let's.
I would put him on the Mount Rushmore.
Well, let's
honestly.
cover this ground because he has a sordid history, and it's fascinating because he was at the top of the pop culture candy chain where you dispense information and you cluck about the famous. You're snarky, you're funny, you make yourself an international brand on the internet. And I've heard you recently talk about some of the damages you did with Britney Spears because you're no longer that person. You're an adult now who has learned the things of being snarky kid from Miami who had to get clever and famous however he did. I assume much before you get here, Perez, but welcome to the show. I'm sure my response to you is familiar.
Well, thank you for having me. And that school that we went to was Belen Jesuit Prep, which I think back fondly on those times, even though it was a flawed experience for me. I wouldn't call it an environment that allowed me to flourish. It was a different time back then in the 90s when I went to Belen.
Well, it can be said without you being a victim or a persecution complex, right? Being a boy in a Latin culture and his sexuality is something
in an all-guy school.
In an all-guy school. Like, that's what you're talking about, right? You're an outsider from the very beginning.
Yeah. And not even from my own classmates, but from my teachers. I'm not going to name anybody, but there was one teacher who was a theology teacher. So she taught religion. And she had the gay conversation. And I remember this vividly. And I'll mention one thing because I'm still a little bit of a troublemaker, but I won't say the name.
No,
I remember
not you.
specifically one day she said, allegedly studies say that 10% of all men are gay or bisexual, ... But you boys are not like other boys, implying that we had less than 10% of a queer population in our class. When in actuality, my class probably had more than a 10% population, and we only discovered that after graduation. But the most ironic thing of all is that teacher was, and probably still is, a closeted lesbian.
I can't imagine a lot of regions of the country less friendly for what you were going through. I can't imagine that you have actual positive memories of Miami, that you might be proudly Miami for a variety of cultural reasons, but not because of how Miami treated you.
And I don't think it's all to do with just the gay thing. I would like to imagine that Miami has changed for the better. But let's assume, and this is a big leap, that I was heterosexual then or even now. You know, I think a lot of it just has to do with Latino culture. If I was a senior in high school that was a big chick magnet, had a lot of girlfriends, but I told my mom and dad, you know what, mom and dad, I want to be a professional sculptor. That would be frowned upon. My parents would say, or I would imagine that most would say, I spent so much money to send you to Belen for you to want to be a sculptor? A sculptor? No. A doctor? Sure. A lawyer? Okay. A politician? That's the end goal. An engineer? Awesome. Heck, even a car salesman. But for you to be a sculptor, you know, I don't think Miami celebrates differences that much, which is so funny because the minority is the majority there, but they kind of want you to all be the same. And if you're not that, then you're, you know, a weirdo. And I am a weirdo, and I love that.
Oh, but I've had a different experience with this because I don't think this is unique to Miami or unique to Cubans. I believe when it comes to exiles or immigrants, very often, because of what our parents think of freedom, that they have an idea for us that's safe, doctor, lawyer, architect, engineering. And if you paint outside the lines, as I tried to as a writer, or as you did, doing whatever you were doing and being gay and trying to sort out the politics of that as a young man while you're feeling hated by your culture. Like you say, it's not accepting, but I could see where a gay man there learning or finding his voice might lash out in every direction at Miami and everyone else for not accepting him, not understanding him, not caring about him, not making him feel loved or understood.
And then add that to that, you know, my dad, and listen, I take full accountability for my actions in the past. I'm not using anything that happened to me as a crutch or to explain away what happened, because I cannot claim ignorance. You know, the best way, and people might think that even this explanation is BS, but the best way I could use to describe it was when you talk about a drug addict, right? Or an alcoholic. A drug addict or an alcoholic knows that their addiction and the things that might lead them to do, like stealing from a family member or who knows what else, that those are not good things, but they still do it anyways. And maybe that's easier for people to understand it that way. You know, like I knew in the past, after I was Perez, when I was doing inappropriate things, I knew it was inappropriate, but I didn't care. All I cared about was getting the attention or getting that hit, that fix.
Well, explain your story to us and the audience that might not know it. You could listen more to what he's doing these days, the Perez Hilton podcast with Chris Booker, wherever it is you get your podcasts. Do more people refer to you? Who calls you Mario, Armando, Perez? Like, what are the differences on what people are calling you?
Well, I'll answer to anything. I have learned a lot in the past. From my past, I have a lot of regret, but I also am not on this like never ending apology tour. Yes, I'm sorry for a lot of the things that I did in the past, but I'm also proud of a lot of the things that I have done and what I was able to accomplish and achieve on my own when there was no blueprint. You know, I call myself arguably the first influencer. And nobody had done it before me. And that whole world has changed so much over the last few years. But briefly, I went to Belen, I graduated, I went to NYU on a full scholarship because being that dork in school paid off. I graduated top 10 in Belen, but I would have graduated top 3 had I not completely slacked off second semester of senior year after I had already gotten accepted early decision. I studied acting. I tried to do that for a while, moved to Los Angeles. Like most actors that moved to Los Angeles, it didn't happen for me. I think one of my issues was I read white because I am a white Cuban, I'm a white Latino with a very Spanish name.
Well, but I was asking
Mario
you. So,
Lavandera.
so yes, Mario. Nobody calls you Armando, right? Nobody calls you your middle name. It would be either
My mother will call me my full name,
Mario Armando. Okay. And-
Yes.
But only when you fuck up, right?
That's right.
Like that's when
No,
it's like
always.
Mario Armando.
Exactly.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
She's
the
the
to-
only one, though.
The tone just changes. So like if it's good, it's like Mario Armando, and then if it's bad, it's like
Well, I
Mario
think
Armando.
because my dad also was called Mario, so just to differentiate, like I'm Junior. So yeah, no, but my family still calls me Mario, and my friends pre-Perez and some of my more recent friends too. But I love Perez. Perez to me, it is the immigrant dream. Like I built something out of nothing. It was not handed to me. And now I'm able to pay it forward and support my mother who lives with me. Also very traditional, not traditional, but not uncommon in the Latino community.
Taking care of your mother toward the end of her life is a fairly normal Latin thing for a son to feel responsible for. And you have built a name that has a stain, but is also a proud name out of nothing, right? Out of nothing. When you say you're the first influencer, you're the first celebrity blog that's going around, and you're paparazzi, and you're introducing people to a corner of the internet that is snarky and funny and mean, and is really the advent of some of the cruelty we see now throughout throughout social media.
Yeah. And I also help my sister who works with...
So thank you on behalf of all of us here. Thank you for
Did you
making
say his name is a stain, because that's not the best. Yes.
Well, but he knows what I'm talking about as he comes here and he says, hey, I'm not on a perpetual apology tour. He's proud of the parts that he's proud of, and there are other parts of it that feel dirty and he's remorseful about as an adult.
It's like that expression, a first impression is a lasting impression, and it's a double-edged sword. Unfortunately, for me, it's excruciatingly hard to have the public see me as anything other than that person from the past. It is a stain. It taints their perception of me forever. Thank God I'm in therapy. I have a wonderful therapist, Dr. Brad, who's this really fabulous, wise, old gay man. And I've, talked about every possible scenario. Like, even if I were to donate all of the money that I've made and make myself poor, that would still not be enough to satiate the majority of people.
But you know what's happening though, right? They are judging you for judging others. They are raining down their judgments.
More than even that, more than judging me. I know people want to see me suffer. They want to see me suffering. That's more than even judgment. It's like they want bad things to happen to me because of the bad things I did in my past. And I get it. I deserve that. I deserve it. All of people's perceptions of me are a result of my own doing.
Billy, you think that I'm castigating this man or lashing him? No, I find his story interesting for a lot of different reasons. One of them, if you're so starved for attention or love or whatever, and you can make something of yourself on the internet by just dreaming up a persona whose clever internet self gets to be an American dream of profit, and now takes care of his mother. And you don't know as a child all the ways that you're lashing out. You study it in therapy later with regret and remorse, and you try to do it without judgment, but you look back at who you were and you're ashamed because you're like, oh my God, what terrible things I did. But you're allowed.
Not everybody learns that lesson. Look at Donald Trump. He never learned the lesson to not say everything you're thinking. And he got approval all the way to the White House. I'm thankful I learned that lesson, and it was organic and it was real. And I'm also not trying to pretend like I'm perfect now. That doesn't exist. And
you just learn,
I still make mistakes.
You learn something. Look, I know what the talking points on this, and forgive me, I'll call you Mario, but
sure.
I know what you have probably done a self-flagellation, not just in therapy, but in the circuits where every time you're arriving with a preconception, and they've got your story. Oh, this is the dirty guy who profited off celebrity shit. What a smut peddler. He made himself famous somehow just by trafficking in the miseries of others. I want him to suffer. So you are hitting all the talking points that you have to appear as a human being, but it must be a great human frustration to be like, hey, I've learned some things. I was an idiot and I'm sorry, but it buys you very little, right? Because people are not accepting your apology.
But I don't really care because I've given up on trying to change. I can't. I won't. I will not. Well, actually, that's not true. I have a theory. We are so shallow as humans that the only thing I can think of in my brain that would allow people to not forgive me, that won't happen, but to allow people to move forward with me is incredible success. Meaning, I had to dream up my fantasy scenario. Like if all of a sudden Ryan Murphy or Greg Berlanti or some other, big Hollywood power player says, I want to cast you in a sitcom, playing a character unlike yourself, a lovable character. And if that sitcom then is a global pop culture sensation, I'm talking about like a Schitt's Creek or a Modern Family or a Glee, incredible success that elevates me to A-list would allow me to move forward.
That's the final joke on Perez Hilton, internet celebrity blogger. The only way to succeed here is to be more famous than everyone else, to arrive
but
at
it won't. But that's not going to happen. Like, what are the chances?
Unlikely.
It could happen.
That's my dream fantasy scenario that's completely unrealistic.
But you already had one dream come true, Perez. Let me ask you something. Is there a difference between Perez and Mario? Or is this
of course. Yes. I mean, so many differences. When Perez shows up on a red carpet, he wears things that Mario would never wear. Perez is flamboyant and fabulous, but Mario is an introvert, actually. When I'm at a party and I don't know people, I'm not really.
Oh, and you probably have to have Cuban repressed in there too. If you had your whole family pushing against how wrong it was for you to be gay, you have to have some of that in there too.
Sure, yeah, my whole family, except for my lesbian cousin who took me under her wing, but she didn't live in Miami. So it was like I did have one supportive family member, but she was on the West Coast. So yeah, in many ways, growing up in Miami and growing up gay, and add to that as well, growing up fat, that's a whole other thing. Growing up gay, fat, closeted, and in Miami in the 90s was very challenging and a very lonely experience, even though I had a sister, but we were 6.5 years apart in age. So we didn't ever get along. In fact, we hated each other growing up, and I didn't really have many friends. And that's why I try to parent so differently. My parents didn't encourage or force me to do things. Like my kids, I forced them. You're taking Taekwondo. You're taking swim class. You're doing tennis. You're doing piano class. I forced them to be interested in the world and to do things, even if they don't like them, because I hope 10, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, they'll thank me for these things that I wish I was forced to do or encouraged to do when I was younger.
If you have been able to forgive yourself for some of the places where it is difficult to sleep at night, are there ones out there that you have handled so poorly that you've had trouble finding forgiveness for even yourself because you didn't know what the
don't forgive me for any of it. I haven't. Because for many reasons. I mean, I know because I've heard from people that I caused them a lot of pain, and it's just for my own gain. And it was so unnecessary because I realize now that I'm an old fart that I would have been successful in anything I did in life. And I didn't have to do all of those things. I would have still been successful as a blogger, and I didn't have to do that. There's like a new trend right now. Literally, here's some, it's my job. Ricky Gervais, the comedian, literally hours ago or days ago, whenever this airs, released a new Netflix comedy special. And he made a bunch of transphobic jokes. I don't even think Ricky Gervais is transphobic. I think he, in his mind, is being smart and knows that making transphobic jokes will get a lot of attention. So it's cheap, it's easy. And that's what I did back in the day. And that's still what a lot of people do now. I mean, look at that. Look at Dave Chappelle and look at Ricky Gervais being purposefully hurtful to an entire community of people because they want to make jokes or they don't understand it or who knows, all the many reasons they might have.
Well, there are reasons that they would espouse, or Chappelle would throw out there the idea that he's protecting comedy, and also that any group that has been persecuted doesn't get to quickly go ahead of the line on black people. That's the argument that Chappelle would make on that front.
I mean, I can't speak for Dave Chappelle or Ricky Gervais. I just think I've grown and evolved, but not everybody has, clearly. And also, it's what's fascinating, like the biggest shift I've observed as a pop culture commentator and purveyor over the last decade is politics and political news has become what entertainment news was back in the day. And in that world, it's absolutely accepted and expected to be ruthless, to say the most cruel and hurtful things about people that you disagree with. And that's the world we're living in.
It's amazing what kind of pioneer you were, because I think I have my journalistic timeline on this right in terms of doing it differently, doing it dirtier. Didn't you were before Drudge, right? Before Drudge became an armed political outlet as a media entity, you were before some of these people, correct?
No, I think Matt Drudge started in the 90s. So he started before me. I started in 2004.
Okay, so forgive me on my ignorance there, but you were somebody who
he was different in that he was always like a behind the scenes person. We never saw him. He never gave interviews. He didn't make himself a personality. He didn't make himself an influencer. His website was an influencer, but I would say that's the big difference between him and I.
Okay, and there are others as well, right? Because you weren't.
The archetype of what I am and who I, like from even before me, there was back in the day, the Hedda Hopper or the Luella Parsons or Cindy Adams, Liz Smith, Michael Musto, my forebearers that filled a role, and that role existed even before them. Like, I think in many ways, I have been a modern day court jester.
I've wanted to talk to you for a while for a number of different reasons. I urge the audience to check out his podcast, the Perez Hilton Podcast with Chris Booker. I'll ask him in a second what he's trying to do there. But for weeks now, I've been trying to get on somebody who could speak to me in a sophisticated way with thoroughly reported details on the Depp and Amber Heard trial. And I wanted to talk to you about how in adulthood, because this would have been a field day for the younger you. This is so painful to watch two people in a dysfunctional, abusive relationship throwing their entire innards into people who cannot be trusted with it. The cruel internet that you dominated a long time ago. How do you cover that then, and how do you look at all of this now?
Well, I'll just start with the now. And what's fascinating is I think I have a very sensible take on all of this. I believe Amber Heard, and I also believe Johnny Depp. And I don't believe Amber Heard, and I also don't believe Johnny Depp. I think they're both lying and they're both telling the truth. And I'll also... when does this air? Is it soon this week or?
Yes, this week.
Okay, perfect. So I'll give you a prediction. I predict that Amber Heard is going to win the trial because remember, this is a defamation case. And I know a lot about the law.
You've had to learn a lot about,
yes.
I've got so many questions about defamation.
So I believe that Amber Heard will win ... and the jury will give her $0. So it'll be like a technical win, but it won't be like a win-win. However, and maybe even more meaningful to him, Johnny Depp has clearly won in the court of public opinion. And I think there's many reasons why this case has become massive. Like literally right now, as we're live, recording this, watching live on just one YouTube channel are over 700,000 people. And that's one YouTube channel. Every network is streaming it on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. Like millions of folks are watching every single day.
Because we've never seen anything like this.
Yeah,
a celebrity,
exactly.
The innards of a dysfunctional celebrity relationship that has shit in the bed and a clearly abusive relationship. This is like watching Charlie Sheen married to another Charlie Sheen, and they had drug problems and they're banging into each other, and now they're showing us the innards of their life, and it's really deeply unpleasant and it's heartbreakingly sad.
I believe that. And I think it's toxic for us, like being subjected to all of this. It's toxic. And it's also bigger than just Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I've observed a lot of conservative commentators and political figures chiming in on this because they're making it out to be like this big anti-Me Too crusade. Like you cannot believe women. Women will lie. You know, look at this case. Men can be abused as well. Yeah, obviously, duh, but most women don't. Okay. And I do believe women that come forward.
But when Chris Rock is doing the stand-up act and saying, and there's a lot of people
believe everybody
this,
except Amber Heard.
Yes, of course, believe all women except Amber Heard because she's shit in your bed crazy. And they've gone through the details of whether that was a prank or whether that was dog poop. I don't know what the truth is here. I do know that I'm unsurprised totally by this too becoming a Me Too and political war because Amber Heard does seem like she also did awful things to instigate.
She did.
And be in a hugely abusive, ugly relationship. But when you say it's toxic, Mario, like you fed here once upon a time, the new internet that you helped birth feeds on this. And then the armies start and the mobs gather and Amber Heard gets buried by a lot of stuff that wasn't even brought here by Johnny Depp, anti-woman stuff. And she gets buried, a victim all the more, even though she might have participated in the abuse. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. I think this one is complicated. It's a labyrinth, but you birthed some of this.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I don't live in that space anymore. And I would hope that it could be inspiring to people, but there's something about this case in particular that is clouding people's judgments, at least for now. I do think, I hope that in 15 or 20 years' time, there might be a reckoning, as they say, or a reconsideration of this moment in time. Because when you think back on 2007, back when I was a See You Next Tuesday, and I was covering Britney Spears, that's the perfect analogy. Back then, when I was talking about Britney Spears, I was saying what a lot of people were thinking and saying it in a really harsh way. I hope that in 15 or 20 years' time, people, there might be all these documentaries about Amber Heard and how she was crucified and all of this. Let's assume the worst. God forbid. What if this poor woman, and I'm going to say poor woman, what if this poor woman in a month or however long decides to take her own life and leaves a really long suicide
I mean,
note
this is
saying,
awful. It's all awful. Yes, like this is a
saying
huge burden.
The way that I was treated by the public, and I stand behind my version of events, and my life is not worth
you also
living.
say this as the expert who did this with Brittany, who has the experience and the remorse of, no, if I'd had the 13 years of wisdom I have now, I wouldn't have done what I did 13 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that is a possibility. This woman, for being what I think is objective, I'm getting so much hate. How could you not be Team Johnny? You're stupid, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm team neither of them. I think they're both messed up, and I think they both abused each other and were toxic. And this has just been a toxic circus show.
The Perez Hilton podcast with Chris Booker. Billy, do you have any questions about old Miami here before we ask him what it is that he's trying to achieve with the podcast? Do you have any other, do you want to catch up with your high school friend here? How many years apart were you guys?
So I graduated in 05. I don't know what year you graduated.
I'm much older. So I graduated in 96.
Yeah, so we even missed, because like I started in 6th grade, so we even missed that. Yeah. What could have been, huh, Dan? Me and Perez running down the halls together, just causing some chaos.
Yes, you and him.
Yeah.
Forgive me, Mario. The podcast, why are you doing it, and what is it that you're hoping to achieve with it?
Well, I started doing it because I was forced to. I had a global deal with a radio network, and they said, we want to get into podcasting. We want you to do a podcast when we renegotiate your deal. That deal doesn't exist anymore, but I enjoyed doing my podcast so much with my co-host that the podcast still exists. And we've been doing it for 7 years now. We've got such a loyal audience that really loves what us together. And we talk about what's trending in pop culture, the hot topics of the day. But I think what makes it so great is my co-host is the polar opposite of me. He's this very straight and narrow dude from West Virginia. He thinks he's the sensible, smart one, but he's just as crazy and much dumber than I am. So it's compelling content, I think, and
are you playing
genuinely good?
Are you playing some formulaic hits where you're the odd couple and
there's no trolling. We both genuinely really believe what we're saying. And of course, we'll agree on certain things. But the perfect example, on my most recent podcast, he gave this dumb, incorrect rap where he claimed people are over this whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. They're sick of it. They're done with it. And I'm like, you cannot be more wrong. You're so wrong. People are not sick of it or done with it or over it. He's like, most people don't care. Only a small group, not the majority of people care.
Well,
I'm like, you're wrong.
Well, how many celebrity trials? I mean, I know I have the O.J. Simpson one, and I know this isn't that, but how many of these? I mean, you're the authority. In 20 years, we've had how many of these since you've been doing
that are
this?
Televised. Yeah, the camera in the courtroom definitely makes it different. And I absolutely agree. I perceive this to be the biggest celebrity trial since the O.J. Simpson trial, without a doubt. I mean, this trial has made stars, not just the lawyers.
No, it's Mark Furman. It's all of these side characters, because it feels like a dirty corner of the internet where you are going to get the dirtiest innards of a celebrity couple, where you get the pirate from the Caribbean, whose life was a decadent, drug-addled mess, is performing on stage for free for you hours at a time, when you usually have to pay to see that in a movie, and you don't know whether he's acting or not, and you don't know if he's a better actor at this than Amber Heard. Of course people are captivated.
And he literally brought out his Jack Sparrow voice the other day. Like, he's performing shtick outside the courthouse for the fans that go show up to support him.
No, and you're right. The internet loves him, and he is winning everything. Amber Heard is getting buried here. Amber Heard has very few supporters.
Although even though Johnny Depp has won the court of public opinion, Hollywood is filled with a bunch of cowards and followers. His career is still in a very perilous place, I would say. And my advice to him would be, going forward, Johnny Depp needs to use his hundreds of millions of dollars, get a fraction of that, and self-finance an excellent movie and self-release it, and have all of his supporters show up at the theaters and give a huge box office opening weekend. And then when Hollywood sees, wow, Johnny Depp is still a box office draw, then all those followers will be like, all right, we can hire Johnny Depp again.
The details on the stories that have been reported by Rolling Stone and others about what a catastrophe his life was of drugs and just
for decades
and decadence. We'll let you go on this note. And again, I thank you for all your time. But among the details that people have been most voracious about eating up in this trial, the most interesting ones to you are?
All of the Amber Heard ones, in that it's been just this nonstop hate campaign against her and trying to discredit her in every way. And people just from the bruise kit to the obviously even the biggest one is the whole Amber Turd thing, the poop in the bed, all her sister's lying. Every single person that she's brought up is lying. It's like, why can't you just acknowledge that they were both toxic and both most likely violent? And it's just, we're going to need a big spiritual cleansing once this trial is over. And thankfully this is the last week. And hopefully the jury reaches a verdict quickly but you know what? It's not the end of it, because, all right, this is right? But what if they appeal? What if the loser appeals? And then in 3 years' time, we have to go through this yet again. It's like, and then it's like the next thing will be, okay, Aquaman 2 is coming out. All of the eyes of the world, and especially the media, will be focused on the box office for Aquaman 2. Was it successful? Was it as successful as the first one? If it wasn't, Amber Heard is to blame and blah, 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 blah. So the trial might be over soon, but the saga of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard will not end anytime soon, unfortunately.
Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you for having me.